Welcome back to Hannity and Combs. 14 members of the Carter Center Advisory Board abruptly resigned last week in protest to the former president's latest book entitled Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid. In the book, Carter blames the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, some say on the Jewish state, for fostering a form of what he calls apartheid. In a letter to Carter, the center's board of counselors wrote, quote, "The former president has clearly abandoned his historic role of broker in favor of becoming an advocate for one side." Joining us now, former Carter Center board member Steve Berman. Thanks for being with us. Steve, is Jimmy Carter anti-Semitic?
No, I wouldn't go that far. But what he has done, Alan, is he's abandoned his traditional position as honest broker and mediator, and in favor, he's embraced the position of an advocate, a singular advocate for one side. We can't abide by that. In good conscience, we resign, and actually it's 15 of us now that have resigned.
But have you heard what Jimmy Carter has said? He put out a letter and he said that apartheid, in the title, for example, refers to conditions and events in Palestine and not Israel, as some have suggested, and that he has been misinterpreted especially in terms of the title of the book.
The title of the book obviously creates some controversy. However, it's not the title that bothered us. It was what the contents of the book, and it was his proclamations afterwards on his press tour. Particularly bothersome was page 213 of the book, where the president, and I think your viewers can see this, the president actually goes so far as to condone terrorism until such a time a Palestinian state is achieved. When we read that and other misstatements of fact in the book, and as I said, proclamations he made in the press about the problem in the Middle East being all the fault of the Israelis, we said this person has abandoned a position of mediator and honest broker, and he's become an advocate. If we're going to deal with an advocate, we might as well deal with an advocate of our own.
He did in his forthcoming statement after this. He's called for Hamas and all other Palestinians to renounce violence and recognize Israel's right to exist within the recognized 1967 boundaries. He was very clear that he did not condone violence.
He was very clear then, but as your viewers can see on page 213 of his book, he was hardly clear. He was hardly equivocal. He said that he condoned the use of violence until such time a Palestinian
You really
state
believe
was born.
Jimmy Carter condones acts of terrorism?
What am I left to think when I look at that particular quote on page 213? What am I left to think?
You know the man.
I thought I knew the man, and most of us, we thought we knew the man, and we were very puzzled and surprised when this happened. What are we supposed to think, Alan, when we saw a particular cable show, when he was pressed, he said, the interviewer said, haven't the Israelis made concessions? Didn't the Israelis offer to give up 95% of the West Bank during the Clinton-Camp David talks and divide Jerusalem? Carter said on television, no, the Israelis never accepted Camp David.
Yes, they did. That is a shame. Well, you use the term, you wish the Carter Center success, but they also have to traffic in truth and in fact, which is a statement that you made. So basically, he's not trafficking in truth, because the truth is, to the answer to the question you were just raising is, yes, the Israelis did offer that, and Jimmy Carter told a lie. What do you think this agenda is all about?
You know, it's hard to say. We've been thinking a lot about it. Maybe it's about selling books, in which case I'd like to challenge the president to donate all the proceeds from this book to various programs to promote peace and understanding in the Middle East, such as Seeds for Peace or the Economic Cooperation Foundation. I don't know. Maybe it's other things that work. Maybe we ought to look at the money. We'd like to see the president disclose where the funding for the Carter Center comes from. It is puzzling to me why he's so concerned about human rights abuses in Israel, and he said nothing about human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia, where we know the Carter Center does derive a good deal of its funding from.
Steve, I want to specifically explain in detail why you think he supports terrorism.
I wouldn't say that Jimmy Carter supports terrorism. What Jimmy Carter does is he supports the underdog in this conflict. But what he fails to recognize is that the underdog in this particular conflict has choices and has made choices. When Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip, unilaterally, how was that greeted? It was greeted with the election of Hamas, and it was greeted with the Qassam missiles falling on Sderot, the Israeli town of Sderot,
But you
almost every
interpreted
day.
that he supports the use of terror to achieve that goal.
Yeah, well, you know, we can say different things to different people at different times. In the book, page 213, he's obviously condoning the use of terror.
Well, then, so he does support it. I mean,
it appears that way.
It appears that way. Now, who used the term the Jewish lobby? I'm referring to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution piece. Was that him who used that term?
He didn't use the word specifically Jewish lobby. He did say in numerous pieces, in an op-ed piece in the LA Times, that there can't be an open, honest discussion on the situation in Israel. He's seen this for the past 30 years because there is fear of the strength of the, and he was referring to the Jewish lobby. Now, who's taken comfort in that? Well, you can look at the websites of the various hate groups out there, and it's stunning. It's chilling to you to see these people saying, "Way to go, President Carter, somebody finally gets it."
I have always thought he was pathetically weak in terms of understanding the nature of evil in our time. This is a validation for things I have been saying both on radio and TV for a long time about Jimmy Carter, going back to the Shah of Iran and the rise of the Ayatollah Khomeini, et cetera, and his inability to deal with the Iran hostage crisis here. He has been very outspoken with the president. But in my mind, he seems to sympathize with the victims of terror. If you look, I don't care if it's 48, 67, 73, or today, Israel is the victim of unrelenting terror. And he gives no sympathy to that. And I frankly don't understand the mindset of somebody that can't see what is so transparent. Israel is the victim of terror, Steve, aren't they?
Well, Israel's the victim of terror, but you know what? This is a complicated story, Sean, with dual narratives at work here, dual claims to legitimate claims to the land, and to unwind this all to get to an essential truth where we can find perhaps a peaceful way of dealing with this situation. Both sides have to be held accountable.
Hey, Steve, did Jimmy Carter deserve the Nobel Peace Prize?
No.
I think that was directed towards Steve.
Yeah, Sean, be quiet.
Did he deserve it?
At the time, I was very proud of him. 3 years ago, I traveled to Geneva to witness and support the signing of the Geneva Peace Accord that was authored by very brave Israelis and Palestinians. The president was the keynote speaker.
All right, Steve,
I think in that interim, he's lost his way.
We thank you for being with us.